This presentation is about the post-imperial Roman philosopher and politician Anicius Manlius Severinius Boethius, who goes today by Boethius. His unfortunate ending by execution in AD 524 is counterbalanced by the extraordinary impact of his master work, The Consolation of Philosophy, which was influential for around a millennium after his passing. In the slides that follow, we'll hope to open up this work a bit and provide some context for the section that you've been asked to read. Please also note the images that form the backdrop of each slide as well, which provide artistic renderings of Boethius's dialogue with Lady Philosophy. As before, you'll be asked again to pause and review the contents of each slide to familiarize yourself with this author and his signature work. We know of the Consolation's influence because of the number of times it was reproduced, translated, discussed, and commented upon by authors and thinkers in later centuries. It was particularly influential in the Divine Comedy of Dante Alighieri, and also in the work of Geoffrey Chaucer, who translated it into English. In the subgenre identified by literary scholars as prison writing, the Consolation remains highly influential in that arena as well. Given his time in unjust confinement and his thorough familiarity with the works of Plato and Aristotle, Boethius was uniquely well positioned to offer the world a deeply meditative consideration on the nature of human freedom. Boethius was born into wealth and privilege, which accounted for his deep learning in philosophy. A politician serving in the post-imperial world within which Rome was ruled by the Ostrogothic Emperor Theodoric, Boethius walked a fine line in his highly successful political career and eventually advanced to the lofty role of Magister Officiorum, or head magistrate, the emperor's chief advisor and executive. Boethius also saw his two sons appointed to sought-after consulship positions and maintained a delicate balancing act until charges of treason were brought against him that led to his execution in AD 524. It was during this period of confinement that he penned The Consolation, a fortunate effort that helped him to manage the anguish of his confinement. Here we see some of the key features of the Consolation. Its argument conjoins elements of the ancient philosophical world of the past with medieval motifs suggestive of the world to come, adapting the dialogue form evident particularly in the writings of Plato, which depicts Socrates' conversations with various interlocutors. It is also structured as both a dream vision, with the speaker educated by a mystical figure emerging from the world apart, and across its five-book structure, it is punctuated with lyrical carmini, or poetic songs. Throughout, Lady Philosophy nurses the depressed Boethius away from his lamenting state and guides him from despair to deeper understanding, so that he gains a measure of peace as his demise ultimately approaches. One key argument philosophy uses concerns the mechanisms of Lady Fortuna's, or Fortune's wheel, an influential motif which helps to capture the fickle and elusive character of human fate and destiny in the tangible world. As noted previously, Boethius meditates on the nature of human experience and freedom as dictated not only by individual actions and choices, but also as shaped by the larger influence of divine order and foreknowledge. It is tempting to see the meditation as a fundamentally Christian exercise, but it is also important to note that the arguments offer little that can be described as overtly ascribing to the principles of Christian faith. A more accurate position is to note the heavily Platonic character of the argument, evident throughout, but especially on its insistence of an ideal world apart from human experience, a world of other dimensions in which the presence of evil is mitigated and the greatest good, or summum bonum, can be apprehended. Please take a moment to review this slide, which explains these ideas in fuller detail. Given its traditional position between the ancient and medieval worlds, the constellation prompted a number of responses, a variety of imitators, and a field of translators across the centuries. It was arguably the most influential work into the High Middle Ages, that is, about the 12th through the 14th centuries, across Western Europe, and integrated into later literary works and educational curricula alike. This slide explains that range of influence in detail, so please pause and take a moment to review. Finally, the constellation's resonance continues even into today's times, in contexts where contemporary scholars continue to find wisdom and occasions for the practical application of its message in today's texts. Just as his precursor, Saint Perpetua, presumably found comfort and solace in her faith while on the brink of her martyrdom, so did Boethius employ his confinement, his philosophical resources to face his own end with new comfort and understanding. Dr. Albrecht Clausen, a friend and mentor of mine from my days as a graduate student at the University of Arizona, has recently written on this ongoing feature of the constellation, finding in it the means to manage stress and find reassurance in the face of impending hardship or peril. You'll see a link to this article in its entirety on your checklist, and it's certainly worth a look if you have time or are otherwise in need of some stress relief. For now, however, I hope you have found this presentation to be useful, and I thank you once again for listening.